You've argued, and you just illustrated it with us right now, that trust may become one of the most important competitive advantages in the AI era. There are
Yep.
a lot of reasons that we see day in and day out to not trust. For instance, there are now 5 billion thought leaders in the world instead of, the hundreds of thousands of us to begin with, who built very, very authentic voices. Why do you believe this is such a big issue?
So one of the biggest shifts we're seeing is that AI is no longer confined to isolated use cases. It's becoming embedded in the way organizations operate every day. That changes the nature of trust. So when we talk about trust, historically, trust was often discussed in terms of ethics or compliance. And while ethics and compliance obviously remain incredibly important, and especially as marketers, we're always concerned about the image and the business and our customer experience. Trust has also become something much more fundamental. It's an economic driver now.
Mhm.
So organizations only realize value from implementing AI across their systems when people actually use it. Employees have to trust the recommendations before they incorporate them into workflows. Customers have to trust the AI-powered interactions that they're having before they can accept them. And executives in any company have to trust the AI-generated insights before they make meaningful business decisions based on them. Without that trust, the adoption will slow. And when adoption slows, we all know value creation slows. So that's why trust isn't just a governance issue. It's one of the primary drivers of competitive advantage. Trust isn't a soft, trust is not soft. This is not a soft skill. Trust is a scalable dependency, right? So, one of the reasons I was drawn to Oversight is that our work at Oversight has always centered on trust. Finance leaders are not simply looking for automation, they're looking for responsible um, decision making and protecting corporate resources within their organization, meaning reducing risk, maintaining governance. AI only creates value in that environment if people trust both the recommendations that the AI is making and the process behind those recommendations. So if that's true in finance, it's true in marketing. It's
Yeah,
true
it
in
really is. And what you're defining here is transparency, right? So,
absolutely.
how important is the role of transparency in creating trust?
Yeah, I mean, we have to have that transparency. One of the biggest misconceptions about AI is that people expect it to be perfect. And I don't actually think that people do expect it to be perfect. They expect it to be understandable.
Yeah.
Where this transparency comes in, right? When someone receives a recommendation, they want to understand, why was that recommended? What information informed it? What assumptions were made? And who remains accountable for that final decision? Because it's not a piece of software.
Yeah.
It's someone in your business, in your system. So transparency doesn't eliminate uncertainty. It gives people confidence that navigating that uncertainty is possible. And I also think, explainability is becoming part of that user experience. So historically, we were focused on designing intuitive software. And now that's increasingly becoming, we need to design with intuitive reasoning. And
Right.
organizations are making, that AI, the recommendations AI is making are understandable, built with trust, moving faster, and they're not just simply producing impressive outputs. It's truly changing business
Yeah.
outcomes.
So for hundreds of years, marketers' role beyond, growth generation was really, we were known as the brand police, right? Sometimes
That's
the
it.
brand Nazis, as a matter of fact. I mean, it's been, one of those things that, some of us proudly wear a badge for. Um, Now, along with that, I think we've become the transparency police as well. We need to make sure that everything being pushed out from many, many different facets of the organization, just not marketing, is truly authentic and trustworthy. What advice do you have for our listeners today on how they manage that along with everything else that we've got to get done on a daily basis?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's a kind of a good segue to one of the questions that was in your briefing doc, which was about the role of the CMO changing in an AI-driven business environment, right?
Right.
And I think it's marketing is evolving from creating messaging to shaping enterprise judgment. What we're witnessing is one of the biggest evolutions of the CMO role in decades. Historically, like you said, marketing owned brand communications, campaigns, demand gen, and those responsibilities, they remain important. They're not going away. But today, marketing also sits at the intersection of customer behavior,
Mm.
market intelligence, AI, revenue operations, digital experience, and increasingly enterprise data. Just, that means that the CMO is not simply responsible for telling the organization the story anymore. We're responsible for helping the organization understand itself.